Welcome to the Citizen Effect Podcast. My name is Keith Whiddon, 100% of Whiddon Criminal Defense, one half of Erase My Arrest. I'm missing the other half of Erase My Arrest today. He said he had to get a tattoo done. So we'll ask him about that on our next show. I'm joined today by a great friend of mine, line brother of mine. Yeah, you heard that right, line brother, Derrick Johnson. Derrick, go ahead and tell the audience who you are and what you do, and let's go from there.
Man, well, first of all, thank you for having me, man. I can't say how proud of you I am, man. You're kicking butt out in the area, man. And shout out to you and all your accomplishments and the things that you and your partner are doing on the podcast. Thank you for having me. My name is Derrick Johnson. I'm a native of Monroe, Louisiana. Member at Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
1-9.
And today I'm an engineer. I am a real estate developer. I'm a real estate investor. I am a nonprofiteer founder. And all those things in the community. So I try to dibble and dabble and keep myself balanced in the Monroe, Louisiana community and just all over. So I like to think of myself as a balanced person, just giving back to the community and making an impact one life at a time.
Well, I mean, providing service and advocacy for our communities, right?
That's it.
So tell us about the community that you grew up in. I mean, you say you're Monroe native. We've had almost all Monroe natives or Monroe residents on the podcast so far. So tell us what it was like for Derrick Johnson growing up in Monroe.
Oh, man, growing up in Monroe, Louisiana, it was great, man. You know, being young, but growing up in poverty. So I grew up in what's called Boogacy or East Side Monroe, Louisiana. Had a lot of great memories. My grandpa, Willie Johnson, raised by Dorothy Blackwood as well, my grandma. But just growing up as a kid, man, it was really rough. Grew up in a place called Plantation View in Kingston. Those places are now torn down. But those are the projects and the area that we grew up in the beginning. And, I found myself having to defend myself. I was bullied in the beginning. And then I became the bully, right? Because, just being in the jungle and, they put this pigskin thing in my hand and, football really saved my life and it changed my life. So football was something for me early on that really gave me my escape from my rough beginnings. And it ultimately got me to a place in life where it became a stability and a stable model for me. Being in a single-parent home, I was raised by 6 women. My mother, Margaret Johnson, Dorothy Blackwood, Linda Rayford, Marilyn Lee, Mrs. Scobie. So women like that taking the time out of their lives to, really let me bond with their kids, let me come through with their kids and things like that as well. So I was able to grow and ball in sports. I met some great friends, man, and I believe that's kind of like one of the critical things that changed my life.
And it even opened doors for you because I remember you wrote a really great Facebook post about 6 months ago now about, playing football at Carroll, then playing football at Grambling. So obviously it gave you that structure, but what are some of the doors that it opened from, transferring from Grambling or from Carroll and then moving to Grambling and things like that? What were some of those doors that football was able to open for you?
Man, that's a great question, man. To be honest, I love the fact that you opened that question. Football saved my life. Football saved my life. There's not a different way to say it. Football kept me out of trouble, whereas I had friends early on that broke into houses. They ended up stealing things and things like that simply because they had too much time on their hands. And so by me playing sports and being ingrained and ingratiated in sports, right, giving it my all, I knew that it would take me somewhere far one day. And the transition coming from high school to college was just discipline. So the foundational discipline of being a high school superstar really gave me the structure to survive in college. So when I made that transition to Grambling, man, it really was seamless, to be honest, because of me being a student of the game and the game carrying me to where I needed to go. It gave me everything that I needed. It gave me all the disciplines that I needed from the coaches because I didn't have a father. I didn't have a stable man in my life, especially a disciplinarian. Coming from the rough area, us as young boys, we need a disciplinarian more so than a friend. So the game really raised me, man.
And going to Grambling, not only did you excel on the football field, but you also excelled in the classroom. Even had to make sacrifices while you were at Grambling, but we won't go into that. But while you were at Grambling, you excelled academically. So tell us about why did you choose engineering, and how does that help you today in developing, creating real estate?
Man, you are awesome. These are some stellar questions. I swear, I'm not joking. So to go in with an engineering mindset and to play sports, let's attack that angle first. I think a lot of youth or a lot of young guys when they enter college, most of these guys just want to go pro and things like this. But I knew I was undersized, right? And so I knew just going in, I needed to use my mind. So a lot of us student athletes, we think that we can get by athletically, and some of us can, but for the ones who cannot, we got to stay a bit more disciplined. So going to college, you wouldn't want to waste any of your money simply getting a major that's not going to make you at least six figures or more later, right?
Mhm.
So when I went into college, believe it or not, I'm 18 years old, and I'm like, in 5 years, what is going to pay me the most money, right? And so at the time, Robert Jean, a highly authoritative figure of mine, played a great role in my life. I called him dad. He was an electrician. So I said to myself, well, I'm going to be an electrical engineer. So I selected the electrical engineering major, and man, it was hard. It was tough. A lot of times, whereas my friends were partying and things like that, I had to study. And I like to make a joke all the time, man. A girl never did my homework because she didn't know how to do my homework. Man. So I had to do my homework a lot of times. But like I said, I go back to it again, man. That foundational discipline of being an engineer and then being a football player is really what kept me safe, and kept me humble. And so when we talk about being an engineer is an engineering mindset. Engineers are 90% planners and 10% implementers. So transitioning into real estate, it wasn't that tough because I'm a planner. You have to have foresight and you have to be crucial and critical with every angle, details, pinpointing things out right to the T as much as you can. So to have that foundational knowledge and base coming from being an engineer transitioning into real estate really was seamless.
And speaking just on that issue of, or not issue, but the fact that you are 90% planning, 10% implementing,
Yep.
was there a time whenever you were either butting heads with the people who were putting your places together, or are there times after the fact that you have this grand idea, it's got to be this way, this is how I want it to be, and then you get there on site and you're like, well, hell, that ain't going to work?
So man, yeah, sometimes you can run into contractors that can be a bit colorful. They can take your schematics and scopes of works and things like that out of context. But to be ultimately true with you, man, just being a servant leader.
Okay.
Just servitude and being servant. So I never really fuss with contractors or people that I work with. I never say they work for me. A lot of contractors and subcontractors that I work with, we all kind of sit down and get the vision. And guess what? People are always going to make mistakes, right? But it's
Yep.
about what we do when people make those mistakes. Are you making mistakes going forward, or are you making mistakes going backwards? And so you have to be okay with that, because the people who make the most mistakes in life are the most successful people you'll find.
Well, and so that really leads me into a great point. What is one of the biggest mistakes that you had in starting your career in real estate and real estate development?
Uh, I would say, man, not understanding the people. So man, like I told you, being an implementer as an engineer, man, it really sets you up for, you got all these grand scheme ideas like you just alluded to, right? You got all these things that's gonna work like this, okay, it's gonna work like that, and in 30 days it'll transition like this. But when you get them people in those houses, man, and you don't understand their expectations, especially with the product, I call houses products. When you got that type of product on the market and they're just not filling your product, then man, you can't account for what a person may do. Sometimes people vandalize your homes. Sometimes people take to Facebook and run you down and things like that. So you have to be mentally prepared. And that goes back to the discipline of football in the game. You got to be okay with self, pick yourself back up, get back on your horse, and do what you can.
So what was the the biggest example of that biggest mistake, or that big example that you had early on that you have now learned from, that has changed the way that you think about people and think about your product today?
Okay. So, man, one of my biggest mistakes was my first rental property. I know I tell this story a lot of times, but it taught me a lot for the game and it set me up. Because, like it was, man, I had been planning 2 years before I ever got into real estate. I had done all the deals in my mind, I had ran all the numbers, things like this. I'm going to refinance it here, but it just simply didn't work out that way. So, I ended up buying my first property for a number that I shouldn't have bought it for. Okay. And I ended up being into it for too much rehab and things like that. And when I got my first person, which I said the people are most important, I got my first lady in there, got her under lease, but the place, it just wasn't up to her standards and her liking. So
Mm-hmm.
with me, I had already run out of construction money, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
had overpaid for the home. So I had ran out of construction money, man, and I had to try to figure it out. But with her fussing at me, my aunt Linda Rafer fussing at me, me understanding what I needed to do, I managed to refinance that house, get some cash into it, make some improvements, and now it's one of my best properties today.
Well, now, but what was your aunt fussing at you about though?
Well, my aunt has a standard of life that she's just not going to put up with. And
Hmm.
when I bought the home, it needed repairs, but I made repairs just to get by. So that's what
Okay.
I'm saying. That's one of my biggest mistakes. I just made it livable, right?
Okay.
And my aunt is like, no, we're going to make it better than that. We're going to make it pristine. And so I had to go back in. I had to rebar the floors. I had to, fix joists. I had to fix windows, roofing, things like that, which I thought I had fixed it up to a standard to my liking, but it wasn't up to her standard. And she had an eye for that, right? She's a
Hmm.
woman, so they kind of got a more keen sense than us. So
Yes.
when we finally walked it, man, we did some work. I put about 10 more grand into it. And we finally got it up to a place. And now my dad lives there. And I actually got another tenant in there as well.
Now, your aunt, she also has her own rental properties, isn't that right?
Heck yeah, man. So my aunt is the GOAT, man. She laid the foundation. I remember once being in college, just pay attention to this, young athletes out there, man. So when I was getting my refunds in college, I actually approached my aunt to buy one half of her duplex.
Hmm.
Now you can't do that, but I had like $5,000. I had got like $5,000 off a refund, man. So I had about $7,000 or $8,000, and I was willing to give her five. And I approached her like, hey, I'll give you $5,000 if you let me buy this side of the duplex. I didn't know you couldn't do it then, but I was like, teach me how to be a landlord,
Right.
basically, and put me into the game. So I mean, with my aunt, man, she has 12 free and clear properties today, and she worked really hard. And so she worked at UPS for 30 years, right? And she retired, and she was building real estate along the same way. So to be honest with you guys and your crowd and your family out there, I was able to model myself after her, after what we call the golden parachute. Have you ever heard
Hmm.
of that?
Only from you. So tell the audience about the golden parachute.
So the golden parachute odyssey it's a place by which you work in your corporate or career job or whatever job that you have,
Hmm.
but you're building your own business on the side, right? So
Yep.
you got your own business on the side going. Robert Kiyosaki references this and call it minding your own business.
Yep.
So you got your business side thing going. You're working your regular job. So when you retire from your job, you have your 401k investment in later age, right? You'll
Hmm.
have Social Security working for you in older age, which that's debatable if that'll be there for us when we finish.
Right.
And then you'll have your investments, whatever it is, stocks, crypto, real estate. You'll have that vehicle. So you have three financial vehicles selling off into the sunset, as you age into retirement. And we call it the golden parachute for a soft landing. So that's the
Okay.
golden parachute odyssey.
Right. So it's kind of another way of thinking about whether it's Gary Vaynerchuk saying you work from 9 to 5, but then you make your money from 5 to midnight, or
Yep.
maybe it's a millionaire has 7 streams of income. It's all about varying your streams of income. It doesn't matter if you're going to be a 9 to 5 and get a 401k, if you're going to build a side hustle on the outside so you can someday leave your corporate job.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, and that's the main thing, man. You hit it right on the head, man. You yourself a successful entrepreneur. Great things to you and your firm, and I've seen you diversify. We've had personal conversations, and I
Hmm.
paid attention. And it's one of those things, like you said. If you're able, your side business is able to accumulate at least 80% of your lifestyle. Okay, guys, don't just get out here because it's hot. People are talking stuff. Keith, you can attest to that. People just want the title entrepreneur until they like really get into their life. I know a lot of people that call themselves entrepreneurs during COVID that went back to work.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where if you begin to make 80% in a
Hmm.
bad month on your side business, that you are able to say, okay, but you need to have a money team in place. See, a lot of people don't have the wherewithal about financial literacy. You need to have a money team in place to let you know, hey, you're making this amount, you got this amount, because you don't have that job anymore, having you covered for insurance, short-term disability, things like that. So those are some things that you got to visit. So when I talk to entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs, I like to just let them know you need to have these things in place before you even leave your job. You need to have that number calculated. So in your side business or in your business, you're already accounting for those things when you get ready to leave.
And so, what are some of the resources as far as like maybe books, podcasts? What are the places that you go to kind of put your own plan together? Because for me, it was Ramit Sethi, "I Will Teach You to Be Rich." That
Nice.
was the book that really kind of set it off for me. I always revisit Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and then you hit on Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of stuff. That's got a place in there. What are some other resources that we can point people to?
Oh man, so we're gonna keep down that track. So Robert Kiyosaki, the cash flow quadrant. The
Okay.
cash flow quadrant is great for budding entrepreneurs, and I call them budding because most people are regular people. They're working jobs, they're trying to figure it out. I just met a dope guy that worked for one of my students in my academy that I teach in real estate actually works for the Secret Service, and
Okay.
he's trying to get out of the rat race and things like that. So the Robert Kiyosaki Cash Flow Quadrant book is really good. The One Thing by Gary Keller, the owner of Keller Williams Company of Realty in the country, one of the biggest realty firms and brokerages in the country. The book The One Thing is really, really great. Teaches you how to focus. Never Split the Difference. It talks
Yes.
about the art of negotiation, right? He's
Yes.
big time. So I read that book, The Instant Millionaire. The Instant Millionaire is a great book. It's free on YouTube. You can check it out. The Instant Millionaire. It's a short audio book, but it's great. Has great principles in it. I'm on the 48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
Okay. And for my financial literacy, Tiffany Aliche, Do Good with Money. So she also has a Netflix series called Get Better with Money and things like that. But I'm following her principles as well about financial literacy. And Robert Kiyosaki is big on financial literacy as well.
Yes. Yes. And whenever you said Never Split the Difference, that's another book. I've read that book at least twice and
Yeah.
watched his masterclass. His masterclass is exceptional.
I'm
So
gonna check
heard
it
him.
out.
Yeah. Check out his masterclass on masterclass.com.
Okay.
I've heard him speak once or twice. I think he's really great. So
Nice.
really, really like him.
There you go.
So we visited a lot of stuff, and we're going to come back to real estate. Okay, we're gonna talk about what you're doing now, but I also want to talk on the fact that, number one, I keep seeing you always posting stuff. Anytime you're even relatively close to being back home, you're always posting something about going to Grambling and revisiting those and seeing the people that helped, I guess, kind of move you to where you are today, paying their respect,
Yeah.
and then also your strive for success.
That's it.
So let's talk about the people that you go back to at Grambling. What is it that they invested in you that you keep going back to?
Man, I'll give you a quick story, Keith. And this is
Okay.
something intimate. You're getting it right here with me and you personally, right here. Man, I want to send a huge kudos out to Latoya Walker,
Mm-hmm.
Beverly Crawford. When I was in college as well, man, just being from a broken home, being from the Monroe, Louisiana area, I was really aggressive. I wasn't reformed. I wasn't a gangster. I wasn't there by any means, but man, I was actually expelled from college for fighting. Now, I didn't actually fight, but I caught myself there at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got expelled, I cried in front of Beverly Crawford, who was the head of judicial affairs at the time, and she gave me an opportunity to pick myself back up to get into a rehabilitation program that was on campus at Grambling that doesn't exist anymore. But this program was for troubled kids like me who got in trouble. You had one chance. So you had to do basically work study for free throughout the whole year, like whatever the mandates was. It's like court, it's like probation or something.
Yep.
So I met her, but in the office, I worked directly under Latoya Spinks. And so, Walker. Sorry, Walker. She gonna kill me. She sees. So I worked directly up under her, and man, she managed to save my life because she spoke into me. And it wasn't that I was bad. I didn't have time. I just found myself being around trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with her that first year, right? And then I educated myself on what work study was. So I was able to go back and get work study. But guess what? My senior year comes, right? So senior year comes, and we had a huge fight with New Orleans, Monroe versus New Orleans. Found myself again critically in trouble. Had a huge fight. I'm in the middle of it, led it somewhat, could have been expelled again. I went home, and all of these guys stayed in this apartment. Mm-hmm. One way in, one way out. These guys surrounded my car, and I had a pistol. Okay. I called Latoya Walker on the phone, and she was able to talk me down, taking that pistol, just putting it back up, and not doing anything crazy because I was supposed to go back to work study. So that's why, man, talking about Dr. Thomas, and things like that over at Grambling State, with those guys giving me a chance and basically holding my hand through that. Grambling, somewhere with everybody, somebody. You don't get too many unique colleges where your professors and people like Latoya Walker and Beverly Crawford care about students.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that whenever you see, I knew Rick Gallo before he became the president. And I think that, were you weren't there. That was long after your time.
I heard him speak though. I heard him speak. He spoke on campus.
Okay. And so I think that Rick Gallo, or I guess now President Gallo, is I think that he's a really good embodiment now. And I'm on the outside looking in. I don't I don't know. So, I mean, I have to plead ignorance, but at least from the outside looking in, for someone from the chair that I sit in, it seems like someone like Rick Gallo is a great person who really embodies that, especially the someplace where everybody is somebody.
There you go.
Because whenever I run into Rick Gallo in court, which I don't see him in court anymore, he is finally outside the courtroom,
right,
as far as I know. But every time that I would see him, and this is back whenever I was a baby lawyer, this is before all this facial hair and stuff like that. So this is baby face Keith Whiddon. He always remembered my name, always remember where I came from, always remember what I was doing, and was always had an encouraging word. Nice. And so it's whenever I found out that he was going to be the president of Grambling, I thought they couldn't have. Who else could they have picked that'd be better? So because he really is, if Grambling is where everybody is somebody, Rick Gallo really is an embodiment of that, at least in my experience. So
absolutely. Former Grambling Knight as well. And that's the thing about getting Grambling Knights in there. Grambling Knights that want to do the right thing. So shout out to President Gallo. He's doing a great job. I think the students have adapted to him. He tries to stay as modern as he can, right? Trying to keep up. You know, it's nothing to catch him at a football game or a basketball game with a cane, right? So, man, he's a great guy.
Yeah. And so now let's talk about Strive for Success, something that I've been lucky enough or was lucky enough to even be involved in last summer. So tell us about Strive for Success, because that's something that you created from the ground up, and it's making a big difference to that same community that you grew up in.
Oh, man. Well, Strive for Success was born and bred at Grambling State University through LaToya Walker. So I actually came up with this idea in the beginning, man. We started Strive for Success in 2010, right? And I graduated college in 2010. But I wanted to formulate and throw my first football camp. So I came up with this crazy idea, man, and she helped me in the office formulate this thing, right? So I kind of put this thing together because coming from Carroll High School, I felt like, man, why don't our alumni come back to do football camp things with us? Teach us what I know. And so I was a decent football player. I was able to make it to the collegiate level, win some championships. So I wanted to go back home to instill that embodiment in my community. So it started out sports centric, right? We did basketball, all those type of things. And now it's kind of transitioned into giving scholarships. We got the annual book bag drive. I will see you that this upcoming year, nothing's going to change, brother. Appreciate you. But it's just becoming a staple of the community. I try to throw different type of events and things like that, having just different talks of awareness. I mentor youth as well. So Strive for Success holds near and dear to me. Why? Because I don't believe that I can be out in the community being a successful engineer from Monroe, Louisiana, being a successful graduate from Grambling State and Carroll High School, something that they said we couldn't do, Keith. I just hold it near and dear. When I go back to speak to those students, I want them to touch me, right? I'm out in the community building, I'm saving lives, putting people in safe and efficient, affordable homes. So I just feel like with me generating all of this financial prowess, I have to put it back into the community that I came from. So that's just me doing my great faith and doing great works and serving.
Well, but it's whether it be reading to elementary school kids, which I know you've done or do, or giving scholarships to kids in high school. I think it speaks to the fact that you reinvest in your own community, and I'm just happy to be a part of it, because the fact of the matter is that I'm able to donate my time, my efforts, and my money into your organization, knowing that you can spend it a whole lot better and make a much better use of my time, my talent, my money, whatever it may be, than I'll ever be able to. And so I appreciate you letting me have a very, very small part in that. So I'm very grateful for being able to be a part of something that gives back to the community that, that you and I serve, just in different ways.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Shout out to the Noble 9. Thank you guys for coming through, man. I look forward to this upcoming year.
Absolutely. And what is the next? So, I mean, we are recording this in February of 2023, but what is for the people that are going to be listening to this, what is going to be the next event for Strive for Success? Is there a scholarship banquet coming up, or?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, we got the scholarship coming up in May. And then, when the summer comes, we're going to prep. We're going to prep for the book bag drive coming up right before school and things like that. And I really want to get involved with the recreational center pipeline, just, donating, because I think now, man, when we were coming up as youth, something that's challenging for me, when we were youth going to the local rigs, like Power Rig, Marbles Rig, there was a free program in the summer. And I think now they charge a couple of dollars. So now what I try to do is try to donate like at least $100, $200 just for kids to go for free. Yep. and for them to get that opportunity, because when we was coming through, we wasn't charged anything like that. So yeah, those will be the things that are coming up. So donations and things like that. We've been in the chat, so we got that scholarship coming up, and so we're definitely going to do that. We're going to enjoy that as well.
Yeah, and so real quick, if someone, and we'll circle back to this at the end, but for people that may jump off the podcast later, if they are, whether it doesn't matter if you are in the Monroe community or if you are listening to this in Morocco, if you want to have a part in Strive for Success, in scholarships, in making sure that kids in that community, whether it be in Monroe, Booker T, the Marbles Rec area, what is a way that they can get involved with Strive for Success or make a donation to Strive for Success?
Oh man, you can go to striveforsuccess.org.
Okay.
Strive, the number 4, success.org. You can follow me on Instagram at strive4success59, the number 4, strive, the number 4, success59. Or you can contact me via the company's phone, 318-348-4940 to reach out. We have volunteers every year. It's great. I love people coming out, people donating, things like that. So that's how they can get in contact with me for the organization.
Okay. And we're going to come back to that. I'm going to let you say all that again, in addition to your real estate academy and all the other things. But in fact, let's just jump into that. So the real estate academy, that was something that I've seen you talk about just in whispers. Has that taken off? I mean, clearly it's taken off. You've got someone from the Secret Service that is a student.
Yeah.
Tell us what building that academy was like. How you even built it? Is it a virtual program? Is it a local program?
Yeah. So man, thank you for the platform. So it kind of just formulated on its own, Keith, to be honest with you. Just putting in the work, right? Putting in the work of real estate investing and things like that, learning different strategies from Lamont Woods, Jeremy Taylor, Pierce, Emmanuel Baker. Those guys have been proponents in helping me to understand real estate in a different scope. So my business partner, Emmanuel Baker, and I, we formulated these courses that we rolled out for new real estate beginners, people that want to get in. And one thing that we value is that you got to kind of pay for your education, and that's how we know you take it serious. So when we design that course, it's a 7 to 8 week course, and you get me personally, and you get me for life, right? So has it taken off? Absolutely. At this point to date, we have about 6 graduates, and I think that we officially went live like a year ago. So well, more than a year ago, but we have about 5 or 6 graduates. They get in there, man, they pile in, and we love to take them. But the most exciting thing is when those guys graduate and they go on to get into real estate, whether that's Airbnb, flips, anything of that nature. Like we had one student, Erica, shout out to her. She bought a whole other house while she was in the program. Right?
Nice.
And so we've been able to just reach out and touch people. Shout out to you for reminding me. I mean, I hadn't even really thought of it that way. But honestly, man, I'm like, God, until I just said, I'm like, I got a guy in the Secret Service that's pretty dope. And, he's learning his way in real estate. Just had an engineer as well. So, I mean, man, it's really taken off. I love it because, I'm a teacher. And that's what it all ties together. That's what I'm saying. Servants of all, right?
Yes.
I'm a teacher at heart, just being a mentor. And, a lot of our students and clients, they think that they're coming in and learn real estate, but they're learning financial literacy. They're learning time management. They're learning negotiation skills. They're learning personal management skills, right? So they think that they're learning real estate, but it's really a lot more.
So if there is one thing that you could sum up your real estate class into, is it a special emphasis on real estate development? Is it a special interest on rehabbing property? Or is it kind of a buffet where I can come in, I can pick the details that I want and then go out and build my own product from it?
Well, yeah. So I do different classes a la carte. Man, it's way to remind me of that. I had a lady that come in. She just wanted to know how to finance real estate. So she had a pretty good grasp of what to do in real estate, but she just wanted the finance piece. So yes, I do teach certain classes and courses for advanced people who are in real estate, and they may just need to know, about this one thing. So we'll spend some time on that. But yeah, we have a beginning real estate investor course, and I also have the real estate development course. The real estate development course is a bit more advanced, and it costs a bit more. Why? Because you're going to make more money, and you're going to understand a lot more things at a higher clip. I think that you kind of seen that podcast where I talked about being a real estate investor is kind of one of ones. It's kind of, business between the negotiation of a seller and buyer. When you're talking about real estate development, it's way more political. You're going to have to shake some hands. You're going to have to make it happen. It may be a full year before you can even break ground on some property. So that's not only getting your subs the right way, you got to find a general contractor. You have to have the overall vision. You got to have your banker in place. So it's a bit more things that can be a bit more complex, but not much more. So yeah, I got 2 different courses that people have, flavors from and things like that. And so, yeah, pretty much, man, just serve a person in whatever they need.
It sounds to me like if you're going to go into the world of real estate or real estate development, you have to pack your patience with you when you go.
Absolutely.
So what has been one of the biggest, I guess, hurdles, mind-blowing hurdles? You're like, why is this even a hurdle? Why am I having to wait for someone, that was elected to make this decision? Or maybe it's not like that. But really, what is one of the biggest hurdles that you've had lately? Because I know that you've told me about in the Dallas area where you had to, go shake the hands and kiss the babies and all that kind of stuff to make something happen.
Absolutely, man. Great question. Great question. So one of the biggest hurdles was, sometimes when you do put together real estate development deals, I'm going to talk about the development side. When you talk about real estate development, like I said, man, you got to kind of have your ducks in a row. So you gotta kind of know who's the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to know the leaders in your district. You need to know different councilmen, councilwomen, councilmen, councilwomen, as well. And it's about those relationships. So, just trying to streamline processes. I had a difficult time in the beginning and working with the city, trying to streamline the process of building, getting held up and things like that. And then ultimately going to a media adjustment board and having to go through that and failing really opened my eyes to some things, some challenging things that I needed to work on. And I felt down, but I ultimately picked myself back up, which we talked again, right? Making those mistakes, just picking myself up, going to go manifest those relationships, take care of those relationships and understand what they needed and what I could provide, finding that synergy piece and ultimately pushing some things across the goal line.
Nice. So what is on the horizon for you personally in real estate development? What's the next big thing that's coming?
Currently, man, I'm building my first duplex. So I'm building my first duplex, man. This is monumental to me, building my first multifamily home. I have aspirations of building apartment complexes. And so for me, this is a huge hurdle because in my heart, this is my apartment complex. This is my first major development and seeing it come from the ground up, and I just ride by there taking pictures and videos and things like that, just praying over the land, honestly, just thanking the Most High for the land and being in position for the opportunity. So that's currently what I got going on. As far as on the real estate investment side, man, just making more plays. Got 4 houses under contract. We also had to write up scopes of works for those for contractors to go in and rehab. So just managing that. We just hired our first in-house person, man. We on our way to being like you, Keith. Big
nice.
Time. So we hired our own property management internally. So shout out to her, man. Shout out to her for being on board with us. She is great, man. She is great. Miss Duncan is really great. So we're managing, our first person on payroll. So we're growing steadily, slowly. We'll get there.
Well, I mean, but that's part of it is that there's no such thing as an overnight success, or it takes a long time to become an overnight success. Yeah. How long have you had your employee now?
Oh man, a month.
A month. So what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from, at first you were a solo entrepreneur, just like for a long time. I was a solo practitioner, solo lawyer. I did everything from making the coffee to going to court. Yep. And so now that you have someone that is in the office, what have you learned about managing another person that you didn't have to do in December?
So man, to be honest, we're gonna bring it back. We're gonna bring it back to the foundation of my childhood in football and being disciplined as an engineer. 90% planning, 10% implementation. Nothing changes in the ingredients, guys. That's the one thing that Gary Keller talks about in his book. So to be honest with you, I have a master's in business administration and management, right? So I've been a manager. I've been a captain on my football team since I was 5 years old. So from 5 to 23 years old, I've been a captain of every team. So leading people and understanding what they need first has not been a difficult transition bringing her on. Basically, we just had a work order, scope of work of things that, just a breakout standard operating procedures, SOPs. Mm-hmm. We had SOPs ready for her to execute, So it really isn't about really just managing her. I'm not a micromanager. So we talk twice a week, but we have constant communication throughout the day because I work with her. She doesn't work for me. I work with her.
She's a team member.
There you go. We work together. And she has a great understanding. She is immaculate. To be honest, we want to build our empire around her. We want to see her elevate. We brought her in. She's a superstar. And so we're going to do everything that we have to do to keep her happy, to make break things down granular. You know, so it's really just about giving her some responsibilities that we don't have to do in a day to day. While like right now, Emmanuel is somewhere warm while it's cold. So I like to say this too. Let me say this real quick, Keith. Do not go out here and say you have a business if the business is not making money when you're not working. That is not a business. You have a glorified job.
Yeah, you have a job.
You have a job. Okay. If you cannot stop working while your business is in the green and operating, Emmanuel is gone. We're still making money every day, right? And so we have a business. It's no shot. It's not downing anyone. You have a company. Like I have a company in Magnolia Johnson Estates because just like you said, I run around, I cut the grass, I do all these things. So I hire the sub. So I'm not able to hire a person on payroll in Magnolia Johnson Estates just yet. So, you know, it's no shame in that, but I just want to get these entrepreneurs and people who work with businesses on the side. They're saying a business, don't call it a business if it's not making money when you're not working.
It's another job.
It's another job.
It's another job.
That's what Robert Kiyosaki said. Don't beat me up. Don't fight me.
Yeah, no. But the fact of the matter is that you don't know that until you've lived it. Yep. And so that's something even with me, and I feel like my career has just been up, down, up, down. It's every time I think I'm getting to that point, you know, something happens. And so I have to come back down. You come back to life, or not back to, you come back to the real world is what I'm trying to say. You're brought back down to the real world. And so you have to figure out, okay, doing that didn't work. My business did not make money or did not make enough money to sustain while I was away. And so what are the other pieces I need to put in place so that way I can not necessarily be absentee. Absentee isn't the right word, but that I can manage from a distance.
Yeah, hands off. Yeah, hands off. And that's the thing about it. You never really, because we had a business organizational model, which we had came into the game with Emmanuel and I. And just this year, man, making this transition, hiring Ms. Duncan, we had to fire 2 of our property managers, right? And when I tell you guys, by the time this rolled out, it'll be later, but our bank account was in a negative. And we're talking about us being 6 years in over $1 million portfolio. We had to figure it out. And so that's the thing about it. I love what you just said, because you got to use your mind. It's going to be up and down. It's never going to be stable. And we're guys with 9 to 5 jobs. So I can only imagine what a real entrepreneur who depends solely on this income would have been like and would have done. But we were able to pivot. We had Lamont Woods, we had Jeremy Taylor, guys in wisdom, Justin Palmer, some guys that really talk us through some things and figure some things out. And we were able to get ourselves up out of that hole. And, you know, we back flowing. Like I said, we got 4 properties under contract ready to go.
Nice. And so for your future, do you see yourself being involved more in the Monroe community, more in the Dallas community? Are you going to San Francisco or New York, or what's next as far as developing for you?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I speak here. My aspirations are to start in Monroe, Louisiana, which I'm currently doing. I want to migrate to Shreveport because that's where we also invest at as well. And I want to get over here to Dallas eventually. And I want to rule I-20, you know, just the I-20 corridor. And, you know, like I said about that golden parachute, I want to retire in my 50s.
Yes.
You know, now, if it takes off, Keith, you know, we might have to revisit that number. But, you know, I plan on retiring in my 50s, but I already have the pipeline established. And just like you said, it's kind of just watching over it. And, you know, man, I want to retire a coach. I want to go out a coach, man. I want to go out coaching football. I'm going to go out coaching football.
I thought you were going to say coaching business owners.
I mean, you know, that'll come too, but coaching is my passion. You know, coaching for me, coaching football, oh, man, coaching football it's not a job. I can wake up and scheme every day. I want to be at the high school level. I do not want to, you know, you get into college, it stops getting pure and things like that. I want to be at the high school level, winning championships with my kids. You know, and that's what I'm going to do. So that's the life that I'm working toward, you know, once I get there, because I know what to do. You know, I know how to implement things. I know how to get young men going and things like that. Sending my kids, sending my babies off, whether they go D3, D2, D1, getting them out of this situation and getting them to a higher level of education for their lives.
Well, and I love what you say about ruling I-20, because, I mean, you and I have the same goal. I want to rule I-20, you know. Whether it's, I tell people I represent people for everything from marijuana to murder. And so if that's you and you're on I-20, I'm your first call. I'm your only call. And so you and I have the exact same mindset, just in different fields. Now, when it comes to real estate, there's been the Airbnbs. There's obviously rentals are always there. Yeah. And there's people like, or not people, but corporations like Zillow that are buying up properties, and then other private equity or hedge funds are investing investing heavily
And
into both commercial and residential property. So just as the real estate market as a whole, if I'm looking into the real estate market and I'm thinking this is something I want to jump into, what is it that I need to know going forward? Is it about Airbnb that I need to be looking into? Is it about private equity, hedge funds, big corporations getting into it? What is it that someone from the outside looking in that's toying with the idea? What do they need to know?
What you need to know is you need to know yourself.
Okay.
You need to know your level and pain tolerance of your threshold and who you are.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I coach my students and clients on is you need to figure out who you want to be in real estate. In the real estate space, you can do a plethora of things. You can do many, many things. And like I said, going back to the book, referencing the one thing, you have to focus on one thing until successful. Not saying you can't go out and do all these great things. You're a superwoman, you're a superman, shout out to you. But you got to start somewhere and focus on that. So whether that's multifamily, Keith, whether it's apartment buildings, that means syndication groups, okay? And the thing, like you just saw Jeff Bezos, his company just spent over $30 million in real estate. You just seen Chase go out and purchase over 60 million, right? In rental property. So something must be going on, right? Even if you're a novice and you don't understand something, when the banks get involved, when huge companies get involved and start buying rentals, that means maybe, just maybe, you might need to get into the game. So I would say self first and knowledge. Go out here and find people who are doing what you want to do. Don't be afraid to approach them. Most people, I'll have a conversation with you for free. All right. If I see that you really want it now, when you get into a space that you're really needing more time and things like that, I'll ask you to go ahead and book a session with me or go ahead and take the class course with me. But if you're a regular Joe Blow, you just want to talk, you just need like a little bit of information, I'll give that to you because you have to invest in yourself and you have to be knowledgeable. I'm reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad for the fourth time as well. And he said it's not a risk if you understand it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So it's only a risk to people who don't have the knowledge of what they're doing.
All right. We're coming up on the 45-minute mark, and this is kind of the sweet spot for us. And so I'm going to lead you into the question that we talked about before we even got started. The name of the podcast is The Citizen Effect. It's about leaving something better than you found it. And so we've gone over and we've covered from the very beginning to where you are now, but we got to talk about legacy. How are you going to leave? And I don't care if it's being a high school football coach. I don't care if it's being a real estate coach. I don't care if it's being an apartment owner. How are you going to leave the space or spaces that you are in better than you found them today?
Oh, man. So one thing that I definitely want to say is just about being a person, being a character, an upstanding guy, citizen in the community from Monroe, Louisiana. Like I said, man, picking back, showing the kids that you can make it. I came from Roaches, Keith. I came from a broken home. I came from going to a university that was poverty-stricken, and they said that we couldn't be engineers coming from Grambling. So shining that light in dark places is an impact that I want to leave a legacy, knowing that you can walk the same path coming from the same place no matter where you're from, right? I want a street named after me, man. In my city, just doing the great works and doing what I have to do to make my community better, right, as a person before I leave. So that is definitely a monumental impact that'll be significant to me before I leave.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. Finally, tell everybody where they can find you, whether, again, that's going to be Strive for Success, run through that one more time, real estate coaching, and any other way that you want people to be able to reach out to if they want more information about the myriad of things that you're involved in.
All right, man. You can find me on Instagram at D_Johnson59. You can follow me on Instagram as well at Strive, the number 4 Success 59. You can follow our group, Owl Investments, on IG as well. You can get in contact with me at 318-348-4940 for coaching, anything like that, mentoring. So that's pretty much it, man. You get me, you get the person,
I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I'm glad that we've made it happen.
Yeah.
I can't wait to catch up with you on the podcast in 6 months or a year from now. And you're telling us about the duplex. You're telling us about the apartment complex that you're under contract on, that you're building on, that you've engineered the plans on, whatever it may be. I can't wait to hear about it. Brother, continue to hold that light high.
Hey, hold that high, man. I appreciate you for having me, man.
All right. This has been the Citizen Effect Podcast. Thank you, Derrick.
All right, man. Thank you, Keith. Thank you.